So what is recursive writing? It's one of the first goals for Composition 105. The goal is demonstrate effective use of writing as the recursive process. What does that mean? It sounds incredibly confusing. So we'll break it down into parts. First, the easiest part to think about is a process, and we all use processes. We know what they are. It's a series of actions or operations conducing to an end. So it's just a series of steps that we go through in order to accomplish something. And we do this all the time. We do processes to get out of bed in the morning, to make the best omelet, to build a skyscraper, lots of things. Use processes. It's like this. You start with a spark, and then you get started. You go through the first step, and the second step, and the last step, and then you're done. Woohoo! In 105, we're focusing on the writing process. And the writing process is just the steps that we go through in order to write. And most of us have heard of those steps. We get an assignment from our instructor, and then we brainstorm. Sometimes this is called invention or pre-writing. And then we write our first draft. And then we revise it. And then we write our second draft. And then we proofread it. And then we turn it in. This is the thing we did in high school and junior high school and all the writing up until now. But in college writing, there's more. We want to demonstrate effective writing as a recursive process. And so we have to think about, what does recursive mean? And the way I like to think about it is like cursive handwriting. And what is cursive handwriting? Well, it is kind of loopy, and it's all connected. We learned this in 3rd grade. And recursive is a way to describe a procedure that can be repeated on itself indefinitely. So something that we're going to go through multiple times. So when we discuss write as a recursive process, we mean the steps of the writing process that we go through and that should be repeated indefinitely. So it goes like this. We brainstorm, and then we write, and then we revise, and then we rewrite, and then we repeat. Back up to brainstorm, and then through that entire process all over again. So here's what it looks like. Brainstorm, write, revise. Brainstorm, write, revise. Brainstorm, write. Now I know what you're thinking. Why are we doing this? And more importantly, why are we doing this? Well, wouldn't it just be faster to sit down, write the essay, and turn it in? Actually, no. You'd be surprised at how not fast that is. Writing is a lot like thinking. The more you think about something, usually the clearer it becomes. And think about Sir Isaac Newton, who Newton campus is named after. He did a lot of thinking. And writing is just like thinking, only we're moving our fingers. The more we write about something, the more we understand it. And the more ideas we have at the beginning, the easier it is to sit down and write something. So even better, the more we think, write, and revise, the better the writing becomes. Not only are we thinking about the ideas, we're thinking and rethinking the best ways to present those ideas. It's one of the coolest things about writing, actually, is that the more time you put into it, the more effort you put into it, the better it gets. And so think about, here's an example, about those novelists whose first books are amazing, right? All the critics are super excited because this hotshot new author has a great new book, and everyone's inviting him to cocktail parties and presentations. And they sell millions of books. And Ryan Reynolds wants to star in the film adaptation. He's like, please, please let me star in your movie. And then money and fame and all the demands for the next novel start pouring in. And then the second novel comes out, and everyone is so excited. More genius. But then it flops. There's a flop. Mr. So-and-so, hotshot new writer, spent years and years and years writing and perfecting the first novel. And without fame and Ryan Reynolds bursting down the door, she had plenty of time to write that book. But when the second book came out, there was just less time to come up with great ideas, great dialogue, perfect all those sentences, think about timing, flow, all that stuff. Damn you, Ryan Reynolds. But we digress. So we practice writing as a recursive process, and that's what we're going to be working on this semester. First, we think about something. That's called brainstorming or pre-writing or idea generation or whatever. And we'll talk about specific strategies to help you get better at pre-writing. And we have a goal with some ideas that we want to come up with. And we figure out what we want to write about and what kind of content we need. Then we start writing. And this is often really tricky. A lot of writers struggle with the blank page. Sometimes we just have to stare at it for a long time. But eventually we write something, and usually that something is crap. But that's okay, because we are going to talk about writing and actually getting things written, and then we'll talk about the next step, which is, well, some people feel really good at this point, and we feel satisfied. We've written something. But then usually you go back and you look at what you've written, and you realize, well, maybe it's not so good. Lots of things could happen. The draft maybe isn't clear. Maybe it doesn't meet the assignment. Maybe it's disorganized. Maybe there's no beginning, no end. Maybe it's boring. Whatever. We realize there's lots of problems with this piece of writing. So we try not to panic. We really try hard. Sometimes we have to call our moms. Then we revise. And revision might be the trickiest step of all because it asks us to use the most complicated parts of our brain. We have to re-see our writing in a different light. And we have to figure out, what did we do? What did we not do? Why did we make those choices? What did we want to do? What did we do instead? What are we missing? Is there anything good? And what does the reader think? Along with a lot of other questions. Of course, we'll talk more about revision strategies. And often we find in revision that we need more content. So we go back to brainstorming. Then we have to get all those new ideas into our draft, so we write some more. Then we have to really re-see our next draft, so we revise. Usually it's better. Then we do it all over again. But wait, indefinitely means forever, and I've got a paper due. How do I get out of this loop? Well, usually, for whatever reason, you have to stop writing. And so you decide, I'm done, I'm moving on. And at that point, you proofread. We don't really proofread until this point because what's the point? If you're going to get rid of a lot of stuff or add a lot of stuff, there's no point in proofreading until the end. And sometimes it looks like this, and that's okay. Proofreading is kind of the nitpicky obsessive step where you make sure all your T's are crossed and all your periods are dotted and everything looks the way it should. But it's a pretty easy step, so we don't need to worry about it until the end. And then we turn it in. Now, I know this is a hard sell. A lot of students don't really think that they need to do the recursive process, especially when it seems like it'd just be easier to drink a bunch of espresso and hit the keyboard all night, call it good. Everyone is busy and it is hard to find the time. But the thing about the recursive process is that it works, and it works really well, and it makes your writing much more efficient. So it might take a little longer at the beginning, but that investment pays off with better ideas, better writing, usually less stress, and better grades. So this semester we'll be working on the steps of the writing process, then we will go through them again and again. Eventually you'll learn to adapt the process to your own needs, skills, and time frames. And once you do that, you'll be able to effectively demonstrate the use of writing as a recursive process. Les filles.